first step of the sugar pea is to place your shoulder tabs right sides together and sew. Next, if you're doing a sleeve, you're going to put your sleeve in. Now, if you recall from the cutting, the deeper curve here is the back side of the sleeve, so you'll want to match that up with the back bodice. So this is the back bodice and the back part of the sleeve. And the little notch that I've cut gets matched up with the shoulder seam. Then I'm going to match up the corners, pin or clip. And then it's just a matter of kind of tucking those curves together and pinning or clipping along the part between the sleeve cap and the corners. Okay, so that's going to be sewn next, but in the meantime I also want to show you, if you're doing a sleeveless sugar pea, then you're going to sew this side seam here without putting the sleeve in. So I'll put both sleeves in and then I'll show you what comes next. So now that both sleeves are in, it's time to do your side seams. So like I was showing before with the sleeveless, you just do this section of side seam. But when you're doing the sleeves, you're going to start at the end of your sleeve, so all the way up and then down the side seam. So here it is with the side seams and sleeves sewn. Next we're going to do the neckband. Now keep in mind, if you are doing the sleeveless version with the armbands are done exactly the same way as the neckband. The first step with any band is to fold it right sides together with the short ends together and sew. Then you're going to fold it wrong sides together and place a pin or a clip at the seam. Fold it all the way around, and then you're going to place another pin or clip exactly opposite to the seam, dividing it in half, and then you're going to divide it in quarters by doing the same thing, matching up your seam and the other pin or clip, and placing another one at the halfway point between those. Now you've got your band divided into 4 sections. Then you're going to do the same with your neck hole. So fold it so the shoulder seams match. Find the halfway point to your neckline. Place a pin or a clip there. And do the same with the back of your neckline. And you're going to find the halfway point between those, which some people assume is the shoulder seam, but it's actually not. It's just a little bit beside the shoulder seam. Only way it would be the same is if you had a high neckline that was the same on both sides. And then the shoulder seam would be the halfway point. Alright, now your neckline is divided into 4 sections. So you're going to match up your neckband pins or clips with your neckline pins or clips. Now where you put the seam, I typically put it in the back, but if you'll notice on ready-to-wear clothing from the store, it's usually on the shoulder seam. So either way is fine. I prefer to put it on the back. I just think it's more symmetrical. Okay. Now if you'll notice, in the tutorial instructions, there are two ways that you can put this neckband in. One is the way that I've just done it, where the top is inside out and you put the neckband on the inside. The other way to do it is to have the top right side out and to put the neckband on the outside. Here, I'll flip it to show you. So this is really just a matter of personal preference. Some people prefer to sew it this way. It will end up exactly the same either way. You just need to make sure that your neckband is against the right side of the fabric. Now the reason I prefer to have it on the inside is I find it easier to stretch the neckband to match the size of the neck hole when it's on the inside. So as you sew, you're going to be gently stretching the neckband to match the size of the neck hole. But make sure you do not stretch the actual neck hole, just the neckband until it matches. And then sew all the way around. The armband is done in exactly the same way, except that you want the seam to be at the bottom of the armhole. So the armband seam will go at the bottom of the armhole, and then the opposite pinner clip will go at the shoulder seam. So here's your completed neckband. It is optional to top stitch the seam allowance. It does lay better if you top stitch the seam allowance. But the important thing if you decide to do it is that you need to use a good stretchy stitch that will still allow you to pull the neck hole over the head to put it on. If you use a straight stitch, it's not going to stretch enough to pull the neck hole over the head. So you got to make sure you use a good stretch stitch, and you may need to test with your machine on some scraps to figure out which one is best. You want one that's not going to stretch the neck hole out of shape either, so the seam is wavy.